Thank you, sir. If we could swear in the witness.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Do have a seat.
Thank you.
Could you start by giving us your full name?
Bradley Sutherland.
And if we could bring up on screen, please, TAC 502. Do you recognise that to be your witness statement?
Yeah, that's my statement.
Have you signed that statement?
Yes, I have.
Is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, it is.
And I understand that you are the director of MB Outdoors Limited,
Yes, that's correct.
which trades as Tactical Archery UK.
Yeah, that's correct.
And is it right that you were the director of Tactical Archery UK at the time when AR made contact with the company?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was in May 2022.
Yeah.
And are you still the director now?
Yeah, that's correct.
What are the main responsibilities in that role?
My main responsibilities is, well, being the director of everything, to be honest, including customer service, marketing, admin, finance, all aspects of the business, sort of overseeing.
You say in your statement as well that age verification processes is one of your responsibilities, which you share with another director,
Yeah.
Mr. Chance, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And just give us an idea of the size of the company.
So we have 3 employees, including me and the other director. That's it.
What are the main types of product that you're selling on your website?
The main types of products is archery equipment, such as bows and crossbows.
And what's your understanding of who your customers are generally?
Could you expand on that? Sorry.
Do you have a sense of why people are buying products from you?
Oh, yeah, for the sport of archery.
I'll come on to it in a bit more detail later, but just by way of brief overview, is it right that essentially your company's involvement with AR was that you received some inquiries by email from him on the 3rd and 4th of May 2022, where he was asking questions about how crossbows that you sold were packaged?
Yes, that's correct.
But ultimately, AR never actually went on to place an order with Tactical Archery?
No, you didn't.
Thank you. It's right, isn't it, that bows, arrows and crossbows all have the potential to cause harm?
Yes, that's correct.
And online sales of crossbows in particular pose a risk of inadvertently selling those items to under 18s because you can't physically see the person in front of you or check their ID in person.
Yeah, that is possible, but we do take the safety of the public very seriously, and age verification is one of our primary concerns.
Yes, so a careful approach is needed if you're going to be selling those items
100%.
online.
Yeah, definitely.
I now just want to look at what the law requires in relation to selling those items online. So if we could bring up on screen HOM 4078. So this is a witness statement that has been provided on behalf of the Home Office. And if we could look, please, at page 66. And if we could zoom in on paragraph 229. So there the Home Office have explained that there's specific legislation about the sale of crossbows, which is the Crossbows Act 1987, but there's no legislation that specifically applies to other types of bow, such as a longbow. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, that's correct.
So if we look at crossbows in particular, could we have on screen, please, ILT 4046? And page 8. Apologies. Next page, please. So this is the Crossbows Act 1987, and we can see that at Section 5 it doesn't apply to crossbows with a draw weight of less than 1.4 kilograms. Could you just explain what a draw weight is?
So a draw weight is the amount of force needed to pull back the string, and the higher the draw weight, the more powerful the crossbow is.
Okay, so is it your understanding that the Act applies to all crossbows with a weight of more than 1.4?
Yeah, that's correct.
Or I should say 1.4 or more. So could we go to page 1 of the Act, please? And if we could zoom in on Section 1 under England and Wales. So here we can see that it's an offence to sell a crossbow to somebody that's under 18 unless you believe them to be 18 years of age or older and have a reasonable ground for that belief. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that's correct.
If we could then look at page 3. If we could zoom in on 1A1. Thank you. And we can see here that there's a specific defence if you're charged with an offence under Section 1. If you can show that you believed the person to whom you sold the crossbow was 18 or over, and either you took reasonable steps to establish their age, or no reasonable person could have suspected from their appearance that they were under 18. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
If we could scroll down to look at subsection 2. You're treated as having taken reasonable steps to establish their age if and only if you're shown any of the documents in subsection 3 and the document would have convinced a reasonable person. So is it your understanding that convincing a reasonable person would be if it's an obviously fake driving licence, for example?
Yeah, that's correct.
And if we could then just look at subsection 3, which it's the documents have to be a passport, and then over the page, a UK driving licence, an EU photocard driving licence, and then there's also provision relating to the Scottish ministers. So is that your understanding of them? That's the main legal obligations relating to selling crossbows?
Yeah, that's correct.
So unlike with knives, there's no requirement at the moment to have an age-verified delivery of crossbows. Is that right?
That's correct, but we do that anyway.
We'll come on to that.
Yeah.
And there's also no specific packaging requirement for crossbows?
No.
So there's no requirement at the moment to have a warning label or to say that it needs to be delivered to someone over 18?
No requirement, no.
Thank you. I now want to move to ask you some questions about the specific contact that Tactical Archery had with AR in May 2022. And that was a series of emails. If we could bring up the first one, it's TAC 503. So we see it's an email from somebody called AR to info@tacticalarchery.co.uk, 9:35 on the 3rd of May 22. And it simply says, "Hi, I would like to purchase from Tactical Archery, but I would prefer discreet packaging, which doesn't provide any information on what's inside the box. Could I see a photo of what the external packaging of your products look like? Thanks in advance, A." And we can't see it on this version of the email itself, but you've confirmed in your statement that AR used the email address a.megalania7@yahoo.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But the email itself is just signed off as A, so no name given.
Yeah.
I just want to pause there. You explain in your statement that there was some timing difficulty with some of the screenshots of emails.
Yeah, so the email software that we used, it just wasn't configured, so the time there says 9:35, but it was actually in an American time zone. So I believe it was about a 4 hours difference. So I think this is really 35 minutes past 1 p.m.
The timing doesn't particularly matter for our purposes, but just to iron this out quickly, you say in your statement that I think you'd been working from a screenshot that said 1:35 p.m., which you understood to be US time.
Yeah.
And 9:35 a.m. was UK time. So does it look as though these screenshots are actually the correct time?
Yeah. No, they're not. Yeah. So that time on there, that's the American time.
All right. So your understanding is it's 4 hours previous to this time.
Yes. I believe so. Yeah.
If we could just have up on
that's
screen,
correct. Yeah.
if we could just have up on screen paragraph 4 of your statement, and the statement is TAC 502. If we could go to page 2. So you say AR sent us 3 emails in total. There was a 4-hour time difference. The time, in the first of the emails, the time says 1:35 US time, when in fact it was 9:35. But the screenshot the inquiry has actually does say 9:35, so it does look to be the correct time, but do tell me if that's different.
No, there is definitely I'm not sure what's happened, but there is definitely a time zone difference because like I said, the email software was set up as an American time zone. We just hadn't changed that.
All right, so I won't ask you about it on every email, but we can generally take it that the time should be 4 hours back from the actual
that's
time
correct.
on the email. Okay.
Yeah.
Could we then bring up the reply to the email, which is at TAC 504? We have a reply from Mr. Chance. Is it right that he's your customer service representative?
Yeah, that's correct.
He says, thanks for getting in touch. We use grey packaging bags when sending out Crossbow. This is so that no one is able to see what's inside. Then TAC 505. We have a further email from AR which says, does the Crossbow packaging say tactical archery on it or any other branding? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Then we have a third and final email from AR, which is TAC 507. Essentially says the same question. Does the Crossbow packaging say tactical archery on it or any other branding? Thanks in advance, A. So none of the emails were signed off with an actual full name, were they?
No.
We could look then at TAC 508. This is a reply from Mr. Chance. He says, hi, they come in grey packaging bags, so the item inside is disclosed. I understand you explained in your statement that that's a typo, and it should have said the item inside is not disclosed. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
So at that time, your orders were sent in sort of fully discrete packaging in that sense?
Yeah, but not to be purposefully discrete. That's just the most economically efficient packaging, which we still use to this day.
All right, and if we could look then at TAC 506. We've got a further email from Mr. Chance, which says, hi, no, just plain grey bags, or if the Crossbow is bigger, we use black wrap. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And we've already established that AR, following that exchange of emails, didn't go on to place an order with you.
No, he didn't.
And you've not located any other emails from AR?
No, we searched all of our email accounts.
So we can take that document down, thank you. In terms of the inquiries that were made by AR, it's right, isn't it, that he only ever gave his name as A?
Yeah, that's correct.
His email address didn't contain a full name either, it was just A Megalania?
Yeah, that's correct.
And he was making repeated inquiries to check that the contents of the package or the nature of the package wouldn't be clear from the outside?
Yeah, that's correct.
So he was going to quite some lengths to determine the nature of the packaging on the crossbow that he may have been seeking to order.
Yeah, you could say that. Looking at it from hindsight, yeah.
You say in your statement that Mr. Chance didn't suspect that AR might have been a child looking to buy a crossbow because the questions regarding the packaging was not unusual. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So did you get a lot of inquiries from people asking about packaging?
I mean, we don't get like loads and loads, but we do get it often enough to not think anything of it. Because some people do buy these as gifts, or they just don't want their partner to see, or neighbours, etc.
Looking back now at the nature of the inquiries and the information that you had about the person making them, should those inquiries, do you think, have given rise to some suspicion about why that person might be so determined to check the packaging?
Yeah, looking back at it, like I said, with the benefit of hindsight, I do think the fact that he did ask 3 times was a bit suspicious.
And looking back with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything that you think Tactical Archery or should have done upon receiving those inquiries in terms of reporting it or anything else?
It's hard to say because, like I said, it didn't really raise any cause for concern because it isn't an unusual question, which is why it wasn't reported. But I think the fact that he did ask 3 times, I think we would have reported that. And going forward, we will do if do get any more suspicious inquiries like that.
At that time, did you have any system for logging suspicious inquiries or particular email addresses that you'd had concerning inquiries from?
We would block so on our website, we would block their email just so they can't place orders. That's about it because we haven't really had any suspicious inquiries, to be honest. So we didn't really have that.
And was that in place at the time in 22 as well as now?
Yes, that's correct.
You say that Mr. Chance has been given training on how to use and follow age verification processes, as well as how to spot underage individuals that might be trying to purchase crossbows. What did that training cover?
So we just we trained them how to use the age verification software, how to run their details through the system, and that was about it.
You say in your statement that if Mr. Chance suspects an email will be suspicious, he flags it to senior management. Would that be you or the other director?
Either one of us.
And what kind of emails would you expect him to be looking out for and flagging?
Well, just any suggestion towards crime, basically, or if they're asking questions about the products that aren't to do with the actual sport of target shooting, if they're just anything related to crime, basically, that you could potentially suggest.
And now would it also include repeated questioning about discrete packaging, for example?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
But on this particular occasion, dealing with AR, Mr. Chance didn't escalate any concerns about the inquiries made, did he?
No.
I now want to look at your age verification processes that you had in place at that time, so in May 22. It's right, isn't it, that looking first at bows and arrows, at that time you didn't have any age verification measures and you didn't use any age-verified delivery?
For just bows and arrows?
Regular bows and arrows.
Not for just bows and arrows.
And in fairness to you, there's no requirement in the
Yeah.
legislation to do so.
Yeah.
And that's the case now and then in 22. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But crossbows, you explain in your statement, could we have this up? This is page 3 at the bottom of the page, paragraph 16. And the statement is TAC 502. If we could zoom in on paragraph 16, yeah. You say at the time, in May 2022, customers must be over the age of 21 to purchase age-restricted products from us, such as crossbows. Is it 21 or 18?
At the time, it was 21. That was just our own personal view, but it is 18.
And now is it 18?
Now it's 18, yes.
Just out of interest, what was it that made you decide to lower your age restriction?
Just because we upgraded our security system, basically. So now we feel more comfortable sending it out to younger, like under 21, but obviously between 18 and 21. Just because of the age verification methods we use now, we feel like they're pretty solid.
All right, and you say at 16 that you ensured all customers were age verified before orders were processed, and you did this by using a government-approved age verification solution called Age Checked.
Yes, that's correct.
And that, as I understand it, checks details that you provide from the customer against various databases.
Yes.
It will give you either a pass or fail.
Yeah, that's correct. So it would check the details that the customer provides. So we wouldn't provide them necessarily. It was like a bridging app that the customer would go through basically, and then Age Checked would provide us with a pass or a fail.
And in terms of the data that's used to do that check, is it the name and address that's on the order?
Yeah, that's correct.
And do you ask them to provide? Could they provide one name and address for the order and then separately input a name and address for the purposes of age proof, or do you always use the name and the address on the order?
The name on the shipping address, yes.
And if they pass that check, is it right that you wouldn't ask them to provide ID in addition?
Not at the time, no.
Is there any kind of cross-check with the email address used or the name on the payment method, or would it just be name and address on the order?
So it would be name and address that went through the Age Checked app, but the software that we use does give us like a fraud analysis. So if a different name is being used, if the name doesn't match the name on the credit card or payment method, things like that, and then if that gives us any warnings, then we do look at it more closely.
To be clear, was that fraud checking additional safeguard in place in 22?
Yeah, that's
or just
correct.
now?
Yeah.
You had that at the time?
Yeah, that's correct.
So there'd be an additional check after, so you get your pass and fail, but would you then run a pass through the fraud checking software, or would you only run a fail through?
We would check them all, yeah.
And what happens if you get the age-checked result back and it gives a fail for somebody?
So if it comes back failed, then we would ask them to provide a form of photo ID, such as driver's license, passport, or anything with a pass logo on it.
And did it have to be a photo ID, or could they have given you a birth certificate?
No, it has to be a photo ID, yeah.
Okay. And who would check that ID?
Me and my other director.
So it's checked by a person?
Yeah, manually, yeah.
And what would you check it against?
So we would make sure that the details on the ID matches the details on the shipping address.
Okay, so it would have to be the same name?
Yep, same name, address.
And address.
Things like that, yeah.
And did you have any training in how to look for fake or counterfeit ID?
Me personally?
The people doing the checks? So.
Well, yeah, it would just be me and my other director doing the checks. We didn't have any training how to spot fake IDs, but we do know what IDs look like, so if anything did look off, then we would realise.
Is there anything in particular you'd look out for that would alert you to the fact it might be a fake ID?
Yeah, just spelling mistakes. If the ID didn't have any like foil stickers on, anything like that, that's what we'll be looking out for.
And if someone can't pass that check of age verification, what would happen to their order?
Then we would refund the customer and cancel the order.
At the start, I took you through the relevant parts of the Crossbows Act, and you'll recall that there was a special defence, essentially, where if you could show that the order was placed using a driving licence, passport, or EU photo card. Do you recall that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Or under Section 1, you had to you wouldn't commit the offence in the first place if you could show you had a reasonable ground for believing they were over the age of 18. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, based on the systems you had in May 2022, you wouldn't have been able to rely on the specific defence in Section 1A, would you? Because you didn't ask routinely for a driver's licence, passport, etc. It would only be those cases where you went on to do the second check to ask for photo ID.
Yeah, I guess that would be correct, yeah.
So looking back now, you were relying solely on proving under Section 1, if this ever came about, that you had a reasonable ground for believing they were over 18.
Yeah, I believe just the fact that the app we were using was government approved gave us that bit of just confidence, to be honest. Yeah.
Just looking back now and reflecting, do you think it would have been sensible to ask everyone for a passport or driving licence so that you would have brought yourself within that defence had a situation arisen?
Yeah.
Looking then at packaging in 2022, did your packaging at that time have any stickers on it to say that it was an 18 plus delivery, for example?
No.
No. And did you use any age-verified delivery? Again, in fairness, I say that wasn't a requirement at that time.
No, not at that time.
And I just want to compare now the differences between your processes then and the processes that you're using today.
Yeah.
If we could bring on screen the statement TAC 502, page 4. And we're just going to look at the whole of paragraph 17. You say now that customers have to be 18 years or older to use the website and purchase from you. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you have a way of enforcing that?
Do you mean like preventing people from ordering in the first place?
Well, from using the website, is there any way that that's policed?
No, you can just go straight onto it.
Right.
Unless your, for example, phone provider or internet provider does block adult websites, then you wouldn't be able to access it.
All right. And do you do any kind of age verifying for purchases of just regular bows and arrows?
We do now. We've probably done that for about 6 months now, I think.
Okay, and what is it the same system as you have for crossbows?
Exactly the same, yeah.
And you explain at paragraph 17 that what happens now is that a person is emailed for age verification after they make the purchase.
Yeah, so after they place their order, they will be emailed with instructions on how to set up their account and then upload their ID in their account.
And you ask them to upload a valid form of photographic ID, which is a driver's license or passport, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Or anything with a pass logo on.
Or anything else, which would be...
Just with a pass logo.
Okay. Just so we understand, what's a pass logo?
So I believe any ID with a pass logo is a valid form of age identification.
And then you say that ID is then manually checked by 3 people in the company. So is that by all 3 of you that work
Yeah,
there?
so me and my other director are the ones who sign off on it, but all 3 of us will check and discuss to see whether it's good to go or not.
And what exactly are you checking when you look at the ID?
So we're checking to make sure that the name and the details on the ID match the name and the details on the shipping address provided. And also the billing as well. If there is another name on the billing address, for example, if somebody wanted to order it for a friend or because they're at work, then we would also get the person on the billing address to send in their ID. So we would get basically all the IDs for all of the addresses provided.
And in terms of checking whether it's a counterfeit or fake ID, you explained earlier the kind of things you look out for. Is it the same things now that you look out for?
Yeah, that's correct.
And we touched on it earlier, but you will go on to explain in your statement that you run a check against fraud software. Could you just explain how that works?
So that's built into the e-commerce software that we use, and it's the same software as we spoke about earlier. So it'll tell us like their IP address, if they're using a proxy to place the order, how far away the card is registered from the shipping address, all sorts of details that provide us information about their payment method.
And you explain in your statement that you also conduct your own background checks. Could you explain what checks you do in that regard?
Yeah, so with the background checks, we'll check if they've tried contacting us before, if they've had any orders refunded before. So if they've just had any previous contact with us, basically, just to make sure that they're not trying to get around it.
And you go on to explain at paragraph 25 on page 6 that if all of those steps are passed, you then go on to send out the order using an age-tracked service.
Yeah, that's correct. So the customer will have to send us a photo of their ID, go through all our checks, and then once all of those checks are passed, we will send it using an age-tracked courier service, which means that at the point of delivery, they will also have to show their ID to the delivery driver. And if they can't provide that, then it will be returned to us.
And when they show their ID to the delivery driver, does that have to match the order details, or are they just proving that they're a person over 18?
I believe with the age-tracked service, they just have to prove it's over 18. But there is another service where it's strictly addressee only, where it would have to go to the name on the order. But we tend to send it age-checked because that prevents anyone from under 18 getting receiving the products.
Okay, so you tend to use the first of those two, so they just have to prove they're over 18, not necessarily that they match the name.
Yeah, it's almost like a fail-safe, because if they did send us a fake ID and somehow got through our systems, then the age-tracked service would prevent that from being delivered.
And looking at paragraph 25, you say you send every order using an age-tracked service. Just to be clear, is that just crossbows, or is that all orders that you dispatch from your site?
Sorry, yeah, that is just sort of all crossbows, parts of crossbows and bows. So if it's like a bag or a backpack, then we wouldn't send that age-tracked.
But
just in the last 6 months, yes.
So it'd be crossbows, regular archery bows. What about arrows?
Not arrows, no.
And what happens if the person can't show a valid ID to the delivery driver? Do you know?
Then the product would be returned to us, and then we would refund them and cancel their order.
Then just turning to the packaging that you use now, you explain at paragraph 17 of your statement, which will be on the previous page, just at the top of that page is perfect, that you use plain grey mailing bags and boxes to ship. A shipping label is stuck onto the package informing the delivery driver that they must check the ID of the recipient. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then you say you stick another label on the packaging with a large 18+ logo and the warning text must only be delivered to an adult.
Yeah, that's correct.
If we could have a look at TACA 509. Is that a photo of the additional warning label that you mentioned in your statement that you stick on orders?
Yeah, that's correct.
And just to be clear, which orders would have this stuck on? Would it be just crossbows or also bows and arrows?
All of the age-checked products. So if a product requires ID, then that would be stuck onto the box or the package.
So would that be regular bows and arrows as well as crossbows?
Now it will be, yes.
No.
Yeah.
Bows and arrows, or just bows?
Sorry, just bows, yeah, just bows.
Thank you. Okay, we can take that down, thank you. So I now just want to go on to ask you a bit about how you might have reflected since these events and also about improvements. The name of your company, if we start with that, is Tactical Archery.
Yeah.
To an outsider, that might imply, using the word tactical, some kind of military use of the items that you're selling or use for violence. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I totally understand how it looks from the outside, but just the fact of the name is when I first started the company, I've got a tech background, and I literally just Googled the most searched key phrases, just so it would rank higher on Google. That's where the name came from.
But reflecting now, do you think that's an appropriate name to continue to use for the company?
No, I can definitely see the sort of connotations it may have, but we are actually working towards changing that.
You're working towards changing it?
Yeah, definitely, and sort of, change it to something more sort of sport, outdoors related.
And is that change coming about because of concerns about potential connotations?
I would say so, yeah, but this isn't just a recent thing. We've been thinking about this for over a year now, where we just want to change it to be more of a sort of sport and goods store.
You say in your statement that you believe that the current systems for age verifying that you're using and delivery is effective enough in preventing underage children from purchasing age-restrictive products. Does that still remain your view today?
I do believe that's true, yeah. If retailers do follow their processes, I think it is a pretty effective system. I believe the system we have now is very effective.
You also say in your statement that with the benefit of hindsight and a wider understanding of these events, you're looking at introducing additional safety and security measures to help identify potentially dangerous customers, such as asking for details before proceeding with the conversation. Would you mind just explaining what you mean by that and what changes you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, what I meant by that was, so like when AR messaged us with no name or anything like that, maybe just from now on going forward, we ask them to sort of maybe fill in a form before they send a message, just so that we have more details on who this person is that is messaging us.
So rather than having an email address which anyone can email, you might have a form which asks for example, full name.
Yeah, that's correct.
So is it right you haven't introduced those measures yet, but you're hoping
yet,
to
no.
in the near future? Or when?
Yeah, we will be introducing them in the future, yes.
Okay, and you may be aware that there are some changes, potential changes going through Parliament at the moment about online sales of crossbows. Are you aware of that?
Which part do you know? Or?
It's the so there's a proposal for online sellers of crossbows to check photo ID. So
I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Either a passport or a UK driving licence, as well as providing a current photo to prove that it's their ID.
Yeah.
And there's also a proposed change to require the person delivering the order to check that the photo ID of the person receiving the package is over 18 and that they match the details of the buyer of the item. So the idea is that it would prevent a crossbow from being delivered to a neighbour or left on a doorstep, for example.
Yeah.
Have you made any preparations towards bringing in that system? Obviously, that's some slightly additional safeguards to those that you currently have.
Yeah, I think we pretty much already do that because we go above and beyond the law, to be honest. Because we look at the law ourselves, and if we decide it's not good enough or secure enough, then we introduce our own measures. And we've been checking people's IDs for quite a few years now, a couple of years.
Well, the additional measures that they're considering would be asking for a photo as well as the photo ID.
Do you mean sort of like a
Like
selfie?
a selfie,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I do think that would be a good thing. I think even a video would probably be better
Yes.
because, I mean, you can just send like a photo of an ID and it could not necessarily be theirs, but I think a video would be good.
And in terms of the deliveries, again, these proposed changes go slightly further, I think, than what you explained you were doing, in the sense that it's not just a check that the person receiving it is over 18, it's that they're the same person that matches the order details.
Yeah, the only problem we have with that is our courier only offers us age checked where it goes to someone over 18 or addressee only where it goes directly, where it has to go to that person with the name. But like I mentioned earlier, if that person did send us a fake ID, I wouldn't want it to be strictly addressee only. I'd rather have it age checked where it goes to someone over 18.
It may be that we know the answer to this question based on the fact that you have introduced some additional measures yourself for non-crossbow archery supplies, so essentially normal bows.
Yeah.
But do you think that that's an area where there needs to be greater safeguards?
Yeah, definitely. Because those bows are just as powerful as crossbows with modern technology. So yeah, I do think that should also be looked at.
And are there any other improvements that I've not mentioned then that you think would be useful in terms of online retailers of crossbows and archery supplies?
I think apart from getting the customer to send a video with their ID, maybe some sort of database that we can use basically to check customers' information. That might be quite helpful.
What sort of information would it be useful to have on a database like that?
Well, definitely their age, their details, address, maybe even sort of criminal convictions and things like that. That could be good.
We've covered quite a lot of ground there in quite a short amount of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to add other than the questions I've asked you about?
I believe that's everything.
I don't have any further questions, so if I may just check, Mr. Weatherby doesn't have any questions. Sir, do you have any questions?
Just one.
Yeah.
Over time, what I'm going to describe as the hoops that you have to jump through have become increasingly extensive. In fact, the way that you've described it, the processes, once they're embedded, sound as though they're relatively straightforward. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So, in your view, have the steps that you've implemented, have they, as far as you're concerned, had an adverse or a beneficial effect on the operation of your company?
In terms of sales, it hasn't affected our sales, but what we actually do hear from our customers, because at first we did think, our customers, they don't want to provide all this information, but we actually get comments from our customers saying that I'm glad you do check and things like that. So I think it is actually a good thing. And us as retailers, we don't want to be selling these products to under 18 and kids. Do you know what I mean? Like, we want to feel like we're doing it responsibly and safely as well. So I welcome any change that's going to make our lives easier and just make everything safer for everyone, really.
If I can just hone in then on one aspect of that, you've considered whether this has brought about a downturn in your sales, and there has been none that you have detected.
No, not really.
That has been extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed
Yeah,
for
no
your
problem.
evidence and for attending today. Do you want me to rise, or
So
do we
if you're
move straight
happy to carry on sitting, we've got our next witness ready and we can just move straight on.
Then we will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can
No
withdraw
problem.
now.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Could you remain standing for a moment so you can take the oath? Oh, lovely. Thank you very much.
I'll just read the words on the card.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much. Do have a seat.
Mr. Jones, could you give your full name to the inquiry, please?
Benjamin Jones.
Thank you. Could we have up on screen, please, MERA 506? Thank you. Do you recognise that as your witness statement, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Could we go to the... actually, I think we can see in the top right-hand corner it's dated the 25th of July 2025. And is that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to start, please, by just asking about your background and your company. Is this right? You are Managing Director of Merlin Archery Limited,
Yes.
and you've held that role since the company's incorporation in 2009.
As a director, I wasn't the sole director at that time, but yes.
Merlin is a retailer and manufacturer of archery equipment,
Yes.
and it's a privately owned family business that employs approximately 42 people, operates 5 retail shops, and also sells through its website, correct?
Yes.
Who does Merlin sell to?
They sell to the general public, schools, holiday camps. We pretty much encompass all aspects of archery.
And what sort of items do you sell?
Bows and arrows, accessories, bags, cases, the complete range of archery equipment.
And does that include crossbows?
Yes.
There's also a reference in your statement to bladed articles. What bladed articles do you sell?
They're the broadheads, they're the pointed arrows.
You have a retail team in your shops, and you also have an online team. Are they operated by separate staff?
Yes.
And how is the website team staffed?
Well, we have a customer service department that does share their resources between the physical shops and the online shop, but we do have a dispatch team which is independent to the retail teams.
And the customer service team, how are they trained in terms of their knowledge of archery and the equipment that you stock?
All new members of the team generally come from a background of being experienced archers to begin with. We often have a 3-month enrolment process where we train in the unique aspects of where their weaknesses may be. They may be stronger in one element of archery and weaker in another.
And we'll come on to age verification and inquiries and things like that. But is the training to team members in relation to those things?
Yes.
I think you were kindly at the back of the hearing room for Mr. Sutherland's evidence, so I won't take you through the legislation again. Before you attended today, were you familiar with the Crossbows Act and the provisions that were cited?
The Crossbows Act, yes.
Yes. And to be clear, you didn't sell a crossbow to AR, but we saw that there is legislation prohibiting sale of a certain draw weight of crossbow to under 18s. Is that
Yes.
right? And we also heard that there's no legislation specifically applying to the sale of a bow.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you able to help the inquiry on why that is, to your knowledge?
Yes, because archery equipment, I'm unaware of any issues with selling archery equipment in general. I don't believe it's used in crime that I'm aware of. It's most definitely a sporting activity, and it's a common sport from all ages and abilities of people. It's taught in some schools, scout groups. It's a very traditional form of a sporting activity. I don't feel that it's necessary to have the same protections against against archery equipment as there would be against crossbows.
You say in your statement that the vast majority of inappropriate questions you receive as a company relate to crossbow sales.
Yes.
Are you able to just expand on that at all?
I'd say virtually all inappropriate questions are to do with crossbows. Some are probably legitimate inappropriate questions, meaning it's come from a background of ignorance, but it's no defence that there are significantly more inappropriate questions. Do you want me to elaborate on the type of questions?
What I just want to clarify is when you say inappropriate, you mean concerning. In other words, people that are wanting to use crossbows for malicious reasons.
For what reason, sorry?
Malicious reasons.
Some for sure, yeah.
And yes, I think it would help to just have a bit more understanding of that.
Okay. Often the misunderstanding is that there may be questions related about wanting to use a crossbow for hunting, which is not allowed in the UK. To put it into context, they are quite rare as well. It's not like we're getting questions constantly and we're fielding off these inquiries, but we have had a few inquiries about, I have to give you an example. One example was what power would be required to kill somebody. We had a recent one about penetration of eyes. There are a very few inquiries like that, but they are concerning inquiries when you get them, yes.
And just to give some idea of the frequency, are we talking monthly, annually? In the last 12 months, we've found it necessary to contact the police 3 times about the malicious type ones. Regarding hunting inquiries, it's probably only a handful, but it is more likely that we'll get an inquiry about hunting than harm. Just moving from crossbows back to bow and arrows, I think you said that you don't get the same level of concern with bow and arrows, and you gave a number of examples of the way in which bows and arrows are used as a sporting activity, correct?
Yeah, no concerns whatsoever.
But would you agree that a bow and arrow could be very dangerous to someone with the appropriate level of ability?
Yes.
And in 2022 and now, there are no measures in place to address the sale of those bows to under 18s, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Is that a cause for concern for you at all?
Not for regular archery equipment, no. It's not a concern.
We'll perhaps come on to the current status later. I just want to ask, please, about your age restriction processes in 2022, and then we'll come on to the inquiries that AR made of you. Could we have up, please, MERA 505? Thank you, and if we could zoom in into the age-restricted products and text below, please. So I think this is the guidance on your website in 2022 about age-restricted products. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Starting with the point that any age-restricted product will be clearly described as such on a product page for that item. So the age-restricted products have warnings on the pages, do they?
Yes.
On their individual pages. Yeah, thank you. You make the point that it's an offence to buy an age-restricted product, and you say that you want to make sure all our age-restricted products are sold only to those of appropriate age. In addition to clearly labelling all our age-restricted products, we also carry out age verification checks and keep a database of refusals. When the reference to labelling there, is that a label on your website?
On the website, yes.
Thank you. And then you go on to say, if we're unable to get a positive ID match via public means, we will contact you for further information. If you're unwilling or unable to provide suitable proof of age documentation, your order will be cancelled. Can we just go through this in a stepwise process? So you explain in your statement at paragraph 21 that the first check that you would carry out for a new customer is on the electoral roll. Is that correct?
At the time, yes.
Thank you. We'll just stick with at the time, but I will give you the opportunity to explain
Yes.
any changes that have been made since. And if you were unable to verify a customer on the electoral roll, you would email them asking for a passport or driver's license.
Yes.
So for online orders, you were not checking identifications by default, only if there was an issue with the electoral roll.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
Thank you. I don't know if you heard the questions to Mr. Sutherland about the legislation that was in place under the Crossbows Act, but the offence under Section 1 is if you believe the customer to be 18 years of age or older and have reasonable grounds for that belief. Sorry, if the sale is made with that belief, then you have not committed the offence.
Yes.
Correct? But there is a statutory defence at Section 1A where if you've carried out the check of an identification which is specified, you have that statutory defence. Were you aware of that difference in the legislation?
Between the ID versus the electoral roll.
Were you aware that although you only committed the offence if you didn't have the reasonable belief of the age,
Yes.
if you checked the identification, you would have met the statutory defence in Section 1A?
Yes.
Recognise this as a legal nicety.
Yes.
You were aware of that difference?
Of the defence?
Yes.
Yes. I would say yes. I can't recall it from what we were doing at the time, but I was fully aware that you had to verify that the age of the person was over 18.
But might it be that you weren't aware that if you checked the identification, you had a statutory defence to Section 1?
Yes, I'm aware.
In hindsight, do you think you should have been aware of that difference?
Yes.
And we'll come on to changes made, but do you think it would have been sensible to check identifications when Section 1A came in, which was in 2020?
100% yes.
In store, you tell us in your statement that you do ask for proof of ID for everybody.
Yes.
So, is it right, were you setting a higher standard of identification for in-store purchases than you were for online purchases at that time?
It does appear that way, yes.
In terms of online selling, obviously you can't see or speak to the customer, you can't check the identification against the person in front of you, and there's a risk of interception of a parcel from a named recipient, would you agree that the risk is greater when you're selling an age-verified item remotely than to
Yes.
someone in store? And I think you say that in only two of 5 of your stores did you actually stock crossbows because of the level of training that was needed to sell them.
Yeah, the level of experience to be able to adequately advise in a face-to-face environment it's quite high for crossbows. The variety of products is vast, and I found it more appropriate that we only limited the stocking of the crossbows to the 2 shops that have the most senior and most experienced staff.
When you say experience, do you mean experience in the technicalities of crossbows, or experience in the kind of age verification and checking ID requirements?
In the technicalities of crossbows and the use of crossbows.
And did staff monitoring online inquiries have similar levels of knowledge and training to those in those 2 stores?
Some of them did, yes.
Would it be unfair to say that the checks on online were a bit less onerous than the checks that were being done in store?
Yes, that would be fair. On reflection, yes.
Can I ask you now about the electoral roll check
Yes.
that you did? Which details were you running against the electoral roll when you received an order?
You can put the name and address of the purchaser into a database, and it will return whether they are matched at that address with that name.
And just to be clear, when you say the purchaser, do you mean the address on the payment card? The name on the payment card, the name on the delivery address, or the name of the account holder?
If the delivery address was different to the order address, we would check both.
You would check both.
Perhaps with the exception if it was being delivered to a business.
So if you're only checking one, there might be a risk that someone underage puts in false details to have the item delivered elsewhere. Puts in false bank details, I'm going to start right again. They might enter parents' bank details to have a crossbow delivered to themselves if you were to only check one.
Correct. We would always check the delivery address.
And vice versa
Yeah.
as well. Thank you. And if you were unable to verify on the electoral roll, you would email customers requesting a copy of the passport or the driver's license.
Yes.
Did you have any mechanisms to detect the use of fake identification?
Not specifically, and that is a vulnerability that's been highlighted.
Thank you. Back in May of 2022 and still now, there were no requirements to put warnings on packages of crossbows or do age-verified deliveries. Is that right?
Yes.
And I don't think you were doing either of those things
No.
at the time. So the online check was the only measure in place to stop underage purchases.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. We've covered in outline inquiries in general terms about crossbows. Other than the check that we are talking about, did you have any other safeguards around purchases, for example, if inquiries were made by someone when making a purchase?
Certainly, if the inquiries were in any way suspicious, it would be highlighted. We had and still do have a register, a crossbow register that we implemented and have had for a long time, where we log refusals so that gives us the ability to cross-check if the person was to attempt to place an order in the future. Part of our process is to check against previous purchase history or any refusals in the past.
And how were staff trained to identify suspicious inquiries?
From a senior member of the team would give examples of what would be classed as a suspicious question.
And were you satisfied that those issues were being picked up at the time?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to move on now to the emails between AR and Merlin Archery. Could we have up MERA 502? Thank you. And if we could just zoom into the top message. So we see the message here from we're given the initials AR and it's signed from A on the 3rd of May 2022 at 10:30 a.m. And the request is, hi, if I bought an 18 plus product, how would you verify my age? Do you verify ID online, or does the delivery person check my ID at my door? Just stopping there, is that an unusual query?
On reflection, it could be considered unusual, but it's not unusual in the fact that people may be asking what the process is on how to purchase a product. So it didn't particularly flag as something that needed to be reported.
So just on its own, that might be an adult wondering if they have the appropriate identification and when they will be required to provide it.
Yes, but I do acknowledge that could be construed as someone under the age of 18 attempting to figure out the process of getting one.
So it might start to raise concerns. The next section is also, do I have to be 18 to receive the product when it is at my door? Is that a more concerning query?
Yes, I would acknowledge that could be construed as someone under 18.
The former might be about the practicalities of providing identification, but the latter seems to be about the age of the person making the inquiry, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it's hard to see why an adult would ask that question, isn't it?
Yes, I would agree.
Can we go down, please, to the response? So we have the response from Oliver of the Merlin Archery team. That's someone from your online or your customer sales division, is it?
Yes.
Thank you. And Oliver gives the reply that we see there. So you would need to verify your age before we can dispatch an item, and then giving the explanation of checking the electoral roll. And then if that doesn't, the electoral register, and if necessary, then asking for a follow-up photo of passport or driving license. If a customer service person sees a suspicious inquiry and recognises it as such, what would you expect them to do?
If that would be considered suspicious, it would have been raised to a senior person. But I don't think on the face of it was suspicious enough to be flagged as a excessively concerning exchange of messages.
Sorry, the first message you don't think was suspicious enough to be flagged?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. We see the response that happened in fact.
Yes.
If Oliver had identified the first message as suspicious, what would you have expected him to do?
If he would have thought it as suspicious, he would have added it onto our register for checking any future orders, because whenever we get a new order in, we always cross-check the email that it comes from with any previous correspondence, and it would have been highlighted on our crossbow register.
We
as a
see the
refusal.
reply that was received. Does that mean that Oliver didn't deem that to be a suspicious request?
No, he didn't deem it to be suspicious.
If he had deemed it suspicious, would he have replied giving details of exactly what checks would be made?
Well, we always reply with details of the checks if they're asked for.
Because if someone underage is trying to make an inquiry, what they need to know is how to bypass that system, don't they?
Oh, I see where you're going. Yes, okay.
So we see here then that Oliver didn't deem it suspicious and gave the full details.
Yes.
If he had deemed it suspicious, he would have entered that into a register. Would he have given this reply?
I expect we would still give the reply on the requirements of what is needed to order an age-restricted product.
Looking back at the first set of queries, and particularly the request about do I have to be 18 to receive the product when it's at my door, do you think that Oliver should have deemed it suspicious?
It's difficult to answer because of where the level would need to be put for us to report that. So if the refusal of selling a product because we suspected someone of being underage, is the expectation that we should be reporting that to the authorities or just
I'm
not
going
sell?
to come on to reporting it. But I
Okay.
think you have a system for suspicious deliveries internally,
Yes.
suspicious inquiries internally, which you've explained, which is the entering on the register. And I'm just asking, should that course of action have been taken based on this question?
On reflection, that should be considered suspicious, yes.
Could we move on, please, to the second page? Thank you. So we then had a response to Oliver from AR. And this message is, I would like to purchase from Tactical Archery, but I would prefer discreet packaging which doesn't provide any information on what is inside the box. Could I see a photo of what the external packaging of your product looks like? The request clearly is going to the wrong company. Is that a cause for concern?
We've had that before, unfortunately. We've also had people chasing orders, like where is my delivery, when they didn't order it from us. So it's obviously that same message could have been sent to multiple people and he just forgot to change the name of the company.
Yes, I understand that as a general principle, but in the context of questions about the age and the packaging, isn't that a cause for concern?
Oh, the packaging. On reflection, yes.
So,
But I would like to qualify that most people, I would suggest, would not want the items that have ordered, no matter what they've ordered, identified on the outside of packaging. So it's pretty standard for us to send items out in brown paper or brown boxes. But yes, there is some suspicion there that someone is wanting to hide the contents rather than privacy concerns.
is that right that most people don't want to know what's inside the packaging? Why is that?
Well, they wouldn't want it advertised on the outside of the packaging, what might be inside the packaging.
Why is that?
I think just general privacy, so the postman doesn't see what you're getting delivered or your neighbours don't see what's in the parcels. I think that would be a fair assessment.
An outside observer might think that the reference to Tactical Archery shows that AR is making requests of a number of companies to try to understand which is most likely to satisfy the delivery. Do you see that?
Yes.
And we know that that is in fact exactly what AR was doing. Shouldn't Oliver have picked that up as a cause for concern?
Yes. On reflection, yes.
Thank you. And again, in the context of the other requests, in that context, is a request about discrete packaging one that should cause concern?
In context with the other messages, yes, it should.
Then if we can go on, please. Thank you. So Oliver gives the response. So as they are as discreet as they can be. Again, I assume if Oliver had actually been suspicious about these inquiries, he wouldn't have provided the full information about the systems in place. Is that right?
Yes, if he was suspicious, he wouldn't have provided it. For example, if an inquiry comes in that's more obviously suspicious, you don't continue to engage with them on how to purchase the product.
Could we have up, please, MERA 503? Then we have a final request. It's very similar to the previous one, but in the first he was asking tactical archery for, I think, a photograph of the packaging, and this time he's asking, does the exterior packaging give any indication of what's inside the box? So I think same principles apply, but might that persistence also have raised an alarm with Oliver?
Yes.
And I think that we see responded to the same question on other email, and I think there was a decision not to respond to this one because it had already been replied to. Thank you. As I said, AR did not then go on to buy a crossbow or any other items from Merlin Archery as far as you have been able to ascertain. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Thank you. Bows, arrows, crossbows have the potential to cause serious harm. So do you agree that a careful approach to online sales, particularly in the context of crossbows, is needed?
Crossbows, absolutely, categorically, yes. I don't see the same. I don't see the equivalence with archery equipment to crossbows. They are distinctly different categories.
I think you've accepted in the context of these inquiries that it should have raised suspicion. Can I ask why you think that it wasn't identified at the time?
I can only say it, in comparison to other contacts that we do get that are more clear-cut of being suspicious, when you're trying to understand about packaging and process, of course, on reflection, yes. I'm just trying to put it in the context of what we sometimes do get, that we do get classed as suspicious. This wouldn't really reach the bar of feeling that we ought to report it.
Do you think that it might be sensible to have greater training for staff on what should raise a suspicion for them and what should be escalated, as it were?
Yes, and that is something that we have implemented a new system with a different approach to managing suspicious emails.
Thank you. And are you satisfied with that approach now that the staff have the training but also the time to consider these sort of queries carefully?
Certainly they have the time. There is no urgency that emails must be responded to within a time frame. We don't put that pressure on our employees. And there is more clarity on how we grade suspicious inquiries.
Thank you. Could we have up, please, your paragraph 18, which is at page 3 of your statement, which is MIRA 506. So you said, in my opinion, while there could have been some low-level suspicion that the inquiry could be from someone aged seeking to buy a crossbow, it would not be enough for us to contact the police. I think in terms of the former, do you agree that it's more than a low-level suspicion now?
Now, yes, it was clearly more than a low-level suspicion.
Can I now just move on to reporting things to the police?
Yes.
You say no expectation for us to contact police for refusing to sell to an underage person. I'm deliberately taking these out of order. And a belief that the police would not be interested. Is that right?
Yeah, and that was my feeling at the time when I wrote that. And I do still feel that if we were to contact the police because we refused to sell to an underage person, that no action would be taken.
Would you expect to be told by police about the outcome when you report a matter to them?
No, but if I can clarify a bit, it may be the expectation that they wouldn't be interested, meaning they wouldn't come and take a statement because of other examples that we've had to deal with.
Where the police have not come and taken a statement?
Yes.
Yeah. Might it depend on the person making the request?
What, the person from Merlin making the request? Depend
Yes.
on them. I wouldn't have thought they would have treated the request any differently, no matter who it came from.
Well, in these circumstances, you actually didn't have any details to give the police other than AR and A, correct?
Correct.
But if you'd had a name and that name was of someone that the police were concerned about, they might take that information more seriously. Do you agree?
Yes.
Have you considered requiring people to provide details, for example, their name, when they make an inquiry of you?
When they contact us by email? No.
Is that something that might assist in the future?
Well, my instinct would be if somebody wanted to hide their name, they wouldn't provide the name, or they would provide a different name. So I'm not sure what the benefit would be.
So Mr. Sutherland talks about having an online form. You'd be concerned that people would put false details into that form?
If their intention was to hide their name, yes.
And can you just describe, I think you give an example in your statement of the police refusing to assist you when you had a concern in one of your stores, is that right?
Yes.
And what were the circumstances around that?
It wasn't a refusal so much as that they were going to come and see us, and then they got redirected somewhere else. So we did have a concerning incident relating to some two gentlemen that were in the shop. They were causing trouble and made some very concerning statements, which is one I referred to earlier. And when we refused to serve them, they refused to leave and continued to be rude and insult the staff and making other customers uncomfortable. The decision was made by the store manager to call the police for assistance. Unbeknown to him, one of the other members of staff was already on the phone to the police as well, because it was more than one person deciding to call the police. That was how uncomfortable it was. I wasn't there myself, just for clarity. This is after my investigation. They said they would send somebody out right away, but nobody arrived. So I need to just backpedal a little bit. Once we were on the phone to the police, and the customers were aware that we were on the phone to the police, they did then leave. And that was noted to the police that they had in fact left while they were on the phone to the police. But they said they're still going to send somebody. And that was great, somebody was going to come. I think an hour or so later they hadn't come, and it was past closing time. My store manager called the police again to ask if there would be a follow-up and if you are indeed coming. And they said, yes, they're still coming, but they may be late or not at all. So they waited till 7 or 8 in the evening in the shop. Nobody came, so they locked up and went home. And that was the end of the contact.
Mr. Jones, do you have any concern that the police don't appreciate or didn't appreciate the dangers of the items that you stock?
I'm sure they're aware of the items that we sell. They must be. It was. I don't know the exact transcript as what was said on the phone, but even the title Merlin Archery as a company suggests archery equipment at the very least. And I guess that reflects back to my other comment about that they wouldn't be interested, but for a more low-level situation. Of course, on reflection, it wasn't low-level at all. But when they can't respond to something that is in the moment happening where we need assistance, it doesn't encourage us to continue to report things of lesser nature.
Yes. And which police force was this?
That was the Staffordshire Police Force.
At the time that you made your statement in July of this year, the age verification process was the same as it had been in 2022, that you committed to reviewing that process to see if there were any vulnerabilities. Have you completed that review now?
Yes.
And what progress have you made with it?
We've implemented the verified age deliveries. That was the number one concern.
You suggest in your statement that it would be beneficial to require compulsory identification to be provided. If we could add up, please, page 5, paragraph 32. Have you implemented that?
We've always had a crossbow sales register, and we've always asked for ID. One of the improvements we made in that regard is that we now scan a copy of the ID rather than making a note of the type of ID and the details of the ID and the name and address of the person. We now scan a copy of the ID for traceability.
Just to be clear, for online sales, do you require identification to be provided?
Yes, my apologies. We no longer use the electoral roll as a verification method. It's only physical ID.
Thank you. And do you place any labels on your packaging?
Now we do, yes.
Thank you. Are you aware of the changes that are to come in for the crime and policing bill in relation to crossbow sales?
I've become aware of it in preparation for this, yes.
Yes, thank you. And are you proposing to adopt those changes in the near future?
The photographic ID...
So I think the extra requirements would be photographic ID, and the delivery would have to be to the person that made the purchase.
If that's required, yes, it does make total sense to do that. We would have no issue implementing it. I only became aware of it yesterday, to be honest, so I've not had time to fully understand the consequences of how it would be enacted. But anything to secure and further improve the sale of crossbows, prevent the sale of crossbows to underage would be great. But more so than that, I think we should be trying to prevent the sales to people that have malicious intent, as you said. You know, that is the. If I can be frank, that seems to be, from my view, the much greater concern from our interactions that we've had with people and incidents that we've had. I asked other people in our, some of my senior management, and we don't recall ever needing to refuse a sale for an underage person, but certainly we have refused sales for over 18s. That feels like a greater concern.
And do you have any ideas about how those persons could be identified?
Concerns on how they could be identified.
So on malicious actors. So, I mean, one suggestion might be that you're provided details or you're able to search the identification of someone and you're given a return, for example, by the police as to whether they are suitable to be sold.
For crossbows, yes. And I would like to ask for more government centralised help in how to, like a correct and industry standard type procedure for age verification. The information on the government website can be interpreted as slightly vague because they tell you that you must verify the age, but they leave it to the retailer's discretion on how to do that. I think something as significant as that should be clear-cut, black and white. These are the processes you follow. The same for the, because of the potential malicious intent for crossbows, if there was a way we could verify identity through a government portal or some way that takes the risk of as a misunderstanding a process or not doing it adequately, would be a huge help for the industry.
You talk about the crossbow sales register. What's the benefit of that?
It gives us more comfort that we know where all the crossbows have been sold. And we can cross-check it, like when we have, if we blacklist a customer, and another concern would be that, if I may just add a little bit while it's on my mind, if we blacklisted somebody because of the nature of the questions, and we deemed it necessary to notify the police, there's nothing stopping them just going to the next shop, having learnt what the process would be, like you alluded to earlier, which I didn't quite absorb fully at the time, but they could learn from different shops what processes are in place to allow themselves to ask the right questions at a different retailer. One of my concerns in the review I did was how to track blacklisted customers.
So there might be a system whereby police are able to identify persons of concern, but I think maybe you're also suggesting an industry-wide system for doing that as well.
I would like to spend more time fleshing it out, but the questions we've got, there's been 2 or 3 times we've needed to contact the police. There is an argument to say that some of the other concerns about hunting may be misunderstood, but when someone is asking specifically about physically harming somebody or what power you need to do something, that information really should be populated. If it came on an email, that email address should be somehow registered on a portal that we can all have access to. I'm just thinking off the top of my head a little bit, but that is a concern. How would we track those people?
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And if you have any further thoughts, please do put them in writing to us. Is there anything else that you wish to add?
I specifically wanted to mention the government-backed ID verification method. That was my number one thing I wanted to get across. I don't think there should be any interpretation open to that. It should be you follow these procedures with this method, and then you will comply. I would like a way of retailers maybe being able to register somewhere where we can be given updates on potential law changes that are coming in, like the crime bill that you referred to earlier, and that photographic ID in the video. I had no idea about that until obviously something like this suddenly wakes you up and you start researching everything, but I didn't know about that. So some way of notifying retailers would be reassuring for us as well, so we don't accidentally not comply.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'll just see if there are any other questions. No, thank you.
Just a couple of things from me, Mr.
Yes.
Jones. Without going into the detail of it, you, I think, were in the inquiry room when Mr. Sutherland was describing the range of measures that they have now implemented, which, if I've understood this correctly, really apply across the board to crossbows and bows. Might be said that that company has gone above and beyond. Was there any part of the description that he gave of their measures which you think would be inappropriate?
The age restriction on regular archery equipment I do think would be inappropriate and unnecessary, but I would comply 100%. If I may add, you did ask about the impact of sales. I'm willing to sacrifice sales on crossbows because we're not in it for maximising sales of crossbows. It's the sport and the target shooting is the number one central driver for what we do. So the more restrictions on crossbows, no problem, but I would be against more restrictions on archery equipment.
So that leads me to my penultimate question. One thing, and I may be splitting hairs, but one word you've now used twice is the word regular in relation to archery equipment.
Yes.
Do I detect from that that within the arena of bows there are different kinds and that you may see a proper basis for applying restrictions in relation to certain forms of archery?
Crossbows would be categorised as archery, and you were correct that even though crossbows would be classed as archery equipment, there is most definitely a divide between what the average archer would consider archery equipment, and many archers may not consider crossbows as their thing. But there are many different types of bows within non-crossbow archery.
That's really what I wanted
Yes.
to focus on. So
Okay.
this is absolutely not my field at all, but the bows that were used at Agincourt
Yes.
have now developed somewhat, and there are some items which are sold as bows which look altogether more sophisticated items than a longbow.
Yes.
Now, do you see within that range any of those which you think ought in fact, because of their degree of sophistication, to have additional controls put on them?
I would say no again. One of my roles within the business, I design compound bows, which is the more sophisticated one that you're thinking of, but they're designed for target shooting. But the nature of the power can be product dependent. Like you referenced the Agincourt bow. The power of an Agincourt bow was something to behold, and it doesn't automatically mean that a compound bow versus a long bow, one will always be more powerful than the other. But if you was to push it to the extreme, the compound bow is the most technologically advanced and does deliver the highest energy output. But within target shooting, and with compound bows now being accepted into the Olympics, there are limits on the power for target shooting and the speed of the arrow. But one of the measures is of how powerful a bow is the speed of an arrow, but even those numbers can be manipulated. It's very complicated to say that particular bow gives certain concerns over another, so I would not.
And I think your more fundamental point is that from, as it were, where you're sitting, you have detected a problem in relation to people inappropriately buying crossbows. You have no experience of people attempting to inappropriately buy ordinary bows.
No, none. If I was to comment about the recent one where we contacted the police, those customers, it was a more general, crossbows were in the conversation, archery bows were in the conversation. It was just a terrible situation. That one aside, I don't recall ever in years and years, like decades I'm saying, of issues with I keep using that word, regular archery equipment, because there is a divide between crossbow and regular archery equipment.
My last question is this. Towards the end of your evidence, you indicated that if you were given time to flesh matters out, you might be able to describe, as it were, with greater detail and precision, what you consider might be useful changes for the future.
Yes.
Would it be an undue burden to ask you to do that?
Of course not. I would do anything required.
Thank you very much indeed. If I was to ask for that within the next fortnight, would that be a reasonable expectation, Mr. Jones?
Well, I'd probably like to consult with some other retailers as well. It depends on the extent of the detail of the proposal that I'd want to give.
All right. Shall we say to the end of October?
Would you clarify what you actually want me to do?
We will write to you then.
Yes.
With that in mind.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
That's been extremely helpful. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Time for a break?
Yes.
Yes.
So the next witness is Mr. Ashworth of Every.
Right. I'll sit again at 12:05.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Yes, Mr. Moss.
Thank you, sir. Just start by giving us your full name, if you would, please.
Christopher Ashworth.
Thank you. Can we have on the screen Every, EVRI 502? And can you just confirm, Mr. Ashworth, that this is your statement to the inquiry, which I think you signed on the 18th of August of this year?
It is.
And are the contents of that statement true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
They are.
You tell us in your statement that you are the Chief Customer Officer at Every Limited. Is that correct?
I am.
That was previously called Hermes Parcelnet Limited, and you are responsible for technology, strategy and innovation at Every, as well as the development of Every's customer-facing products. Is that correct?
It is indeed.
On a day-to-day basis, just give us a brief thumbnail sketch, if you would. What are your responsibilities? What do you deal with in the company?
All technology, so we keep the company up and running and processing parcels. I deal with development of products and propositions for all sides of the marketplace. I run our customer service teams, design the customer experience, and I'm also responsible for the marketing teams and PR teams in the business.
Thank you. And customer service, I think part of, when you say customer experience, I think customer service falls within your purview as well.
It does indeed, yeah.
You've been working for Every for 9 years. Were you in the logistics and parcel business before that?
Yes, I've been in parcels for about 20 years. I've worked for Yodel, Arrow XL and Hermes latterly Every.
So it's obviously a big business, the parcel logistics, and you're pretty senior within Every and have good understanding of the industry generally. Would that be fair?
That would be correct.
Turning to understand a little bit about Every's business, again, we only need to deal with this at a high level, really, but you explain in your paragraph 3 that Every provides parcel logistics and final mile delivery services. No doubt the clue is in the name, but just explain the final mile delivery services. What does that mean in plain English?
Well, in essence, we deliver to the doorstep for most of the top 100 retailers in the UK, predominantly domestic services, but we do have some international. We deliver about a billion parcels a year, just under a billion parcels a year. What does that look like? On a typical day, 2.5 million parcels a day. At Christmas, that will peak up to about 4.2 million this year. We generally use 20,000 couriers a day, self-employed couriers, to deliver that kind of volume. That will spike to about 30,000 couriers a day.
In particular, when I come on probably towards the end of my questioning, but in a sense throughout, when I'm asking you about the individual delivery to AR, we'll keep that in mind, that you're a business doing 2.5 million a day. But I also want, on behalf of the Chair, to encourage you to use that experience to explain in terms of automated systems where there may be scope for improvement. But you describe in paragraph 4 of your statement that Every deals with both business to consumer, you've explained the business to consumer part, but also consumer to consumer parcel delivery. Now that may not be so relevant for today, but just explain what that is. Does that mean that I, as a member of the public, can book a parcel from you to go to a friend or a relative?
Absolutely. So we open up those services through a website and or an app, and you can inject your parcel into our network either from collection by courier or through about 12,000 parcel shops or 2,000 lockers that are around the UK.
Thank you. In paragraph 7, of your statement. Perhaps we should have that one on screen. So it's Every 502 at page 2, please, Sarah. You say there that Every, as a company, have always taken the view that Every should not offer the product of age-verified delivery because the delivery of bladed items or any other items or substances covered by the Offensive Weapons Act is not an area of the delivery market that Every serves. Is that correct?
Correct.
Why is that? There is obviously business there to be had. Is there a particular reason why Every doesn't go into the area of age-verified deliveries at all?
I'd say there's 2 reasons. Firstly, morally, we just didn't want to carry that kind of traffic. Just didn't sit comfortably with us as a board. We discussed it, and we chose not to take any of that volume. I think practically we have 30,000 couriers in the final mile. When you're operating in our part of the market, there's a lot about speed. Those couriers will deliver sometimes 2 rounds a day, so somewhere between 200 to 300 parcels a day. Our network is not set up for complicated interactions on the doorstep. There's a lot of, most people in this room will have received a parcel. Some of us are always happy with the way parcels are received, and safe places are used a lot in our network. Sometimes a courier will choose a safe place that has been designated by technology or agreed with a customer. Sometimes it's assumed. I couldn't be 100% sure that a courier wouldn't rely on a customary agreement to deliver something like a blade, and as such, I didn't want any blades in our network.
So there's an element of moral choice about that and an element of not wanting to run the risk and the reputational risk. Would that be fair?
Correct. And the pure practicality of ensuring 100% compliance.
And you tell us that within the parcels market, the fact that Every don't offer an age-verified service is well known. So online retailers, presumably you mean the big ones, but also it's made clear in your interactions with prospective and current clients.
Absolutely. It's in all of our contracts. It's on our website. It's replicated on any partner's websites. And if any customer or client asks us, will we carry knives? The answer is no.
Against that background, let me turn to Every's involvement with a delivery to AR. And the Chair has heard quite a lot of evidence about this already. In terms of the delivery of the machete, which ultimately had come from hunting and knives, could we look at the shipping confirmation, Every 506, please? So this is one of your exhibits. Could we just enlarge the text just a little bit? Who would have sent out this shipping confirmation? Can you just help with the ground reality of it?
This looks like the shipping confirmation came from Agio Wholesale, and it references the shipping details, which is shipped by Parcel Hub, a reseller to Every, and the information we would have received would have been that pure shipping line, Parcel Hub, Every, Whistle Packet, POD.
Thank you. So just going through those, the POD signifies what? You explained it in your statement, but just set it out for us.
Proof of delivery, in the context of this parcel, that would have been a photo with any facial pictures excluded, so generally it'd be a photo of an open door with maybe some feet in and the parcel in, and a geolocation of where that event took place.
Thank you. So whereas for this inquiry, we would positively want to establish exactly who took possession of this delivery, your requirements in terms of not storing personal data means, and many of us may have an everyday familiarity with this, the picture gets taken and you're told to step back so you don't appear in the photograph. Is that fair?
Correct.
It's got a tracking number as well, and we see the billing information and the shipping information both to Olakunle, sometimes referred to in our documents as Samuel, and AR's home address. There's a payment method there indicating Visa. In relation to that, would you have had any involvement with the payment and whether the payment details match the name and the address?
No.
The shipping method is regular shipping cost. And so is it fair to say that on this shipping confirmation, it's clear that there's not a special type of delivery, it's not an verified delivery?
Sorry. This is one of our cheapest delivery services. So it's a packet, so a loosely wrapped item that's possibly to be delivered through a letterbox and with a proof of delivery, which would be a photo of it going through, or to be left with a customer if it didn't fit through a letterbox.
Thank you. I think that can come down from the screen, please. We know that, you set it out in your statement, that Every as a company didn't have any direct relationship with Agio or Hunting and Knives. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct.
And other than that there's that single word, Agio, you wouldn't have known about huntingandknives.co.uk
We did.
Just wait for the question.
Sorry.
You wouldn't have known about huntingandknives.co.uk as being the ultimate seller of this product.
That's correct, but we didn't even know of Agio either.
Thank you. How common is this type of arrangement? Because we know that your contract is with Whistle, and we'll look at that. But the chain goes from Agio Hunting and Knives to S.J. Henderson, who have a linked company, Ruar Music, who then have a contract with Whistle, who then have a contract with you, and you do the ultimate delivery. Is that unusual to have that, to outside eyes, slightly complex supply chain?
Most of our volume is contracted directly with, we'll call them a client, but a retailer. So we will build a relationship with a retailer, we'll work within their supply chain, understand what they're sending, agree with them how it's going to be packaged and presented, and work a customer journey that's going to be working for that retailer's customers. In this regard, that wasn't this relationship. This is a small proportion of our volume. I couldn't give you the percentages, but it would be somewhere around 10% comes into our network from resellers. At that point, our role is purely transactional. The reseller does all of that pastoral care with their clients and merely injects that volume into a carrier's network. So in this case, the reseller parcel will be trading name of Whistle. They will probably have an agreement with all the carriers based on price and parcels, and they will choose where to send the volume.
And you explain in paragraph 14 of your statement, let me check that I've understood it correctly, that for some of Whistle's big clients, you know of their identity, and they get a child ID in your system. Is that right?
That's correct.
But here, and I don't think there's any suggestion that Rua Music were a particularly big client of Whistle, there was no child ID for you in relation to this particular parcel or these sets of parcels.
That's correct. It is usually a tipping point where Whistle would want to track volume of a certain number, so they'll assign a child ID. But they'll be dealing with thousands of retailers, so they would only do it where it makes sense to do it.
So the direct interface that you would have in, I think you indicated probably 90% of your business with the retailer.
Correct.
You are relying here in the 10%, the Whistle type case, on the reseller, here Whistle, doing all of the interface with the seller of the goods.
Correct.
And you are, I'm sure I'm doing a disservice to the complexity, but basically you are taking the parcel from A to B and doing little more.
Correct. The parcel will be injected into our hub and we'll take responsibility of it to get it into the customer's hands in the final mile.
And although there is helpful detail in your statement in relation to this, does it come to this, that your evidence to this inquiry would be that Every was wholly unaware that this parcel originated from Hunting and Knives?
Absolutely.
And wholly unaware that it contained a bladed item?
Absolutely.
And you would say, no doubt, that at no stage did Whistle, or for that matter anyone else higher up in the supply chain, inform you that it did or might contain a bladed item?
Correct.
I want to ask you one aspect about this. Could we have on the screen, please, RUA, that's R-U-A and then M for music, 3 zeros and 3. So RU-AM 5 zeros 3. You'll see here, and I think you've seen this statement of Mr. Henderson.
Correct.
Of Rua Music. And could we go, please, to page 5 within this and paragraph 18. I think it's towards the bottom of the page. Mr. Henderson is dealing here with the very early orders, I think, from Mr. Martinez of Hunting and Knives Agio. And he says, our records show that in March 22, there were 22 separate orders containing 23 products shipped by Agio to our facility as one consignment under this integration. And I can see that the descriptions for products included in this consignment did include a reference to knives and similar references. And he gives an exhibit, which I'm going to go to in a moment, but I'll just read on. This information was provided by Agio for the purposes of onward shipping. So Mr. Henderson is accepting that this information has gone from Agio to his company. And then he says this, Whistle as the nominated courier would also have received, if we can just go over the page, a record of this description on its system, because we have an online integration with all of our couriers. Real-time data is passed from our warehouse management system to the courier at point of dispatch / label creation. And before I ask you anything about this, could we just have the exhibit on the screen, which is RUAM 506, please? And could we have the text, please, Sarah, at the top of the page highlighted? Now, this is the constant frustration of a spreadsheet printed out, that you'll see that the column is cut off. But if you look down the product name there, even though sometimes the word knife is cut off in the description, it's evident from Mr. Martinez's evidence that the overwhelming majority, if not every single one of those items, are knives. So Mr. Henderson's evidence is that that went to Whistle. Knowing the systems as you do, would that information also have gone to Every or not?
Not. We have a pre-advised standard, specific technical pre-advised standard. That would not be passed through that standard.
And the pre-advised standard, if it doesn't contain information like this that would have been available to Whistle, and obviously I'll ask Mr. Polglass about it, but what does the pre-advised information contain if it doesn't contain information like this?
Generally, it's the parcel number, the address, and the service that parcel has been contracted on.
So
we'll also include some geographic round sorting information for our hubs to know which round to sort that parcel on through the automation.
So in terms of the filter down of information, this is detail that gets filtered out between you and Whistle.
Correct.
Is there any reason why that happens? Would it not be useful for you to at least have this on your systems?
No, it's just not part of our customer journey. When we notify a customer, it's all about when a parcel is entering our network and when it's likely to be delivered, the time slot it will be delivered, and giving the customer choice of controls if they're not going to be in. There is no reason for us to need to know what's in that parcel, because we prohibit anything that's dangerous.
Yes, so far as that goes, but if this information had been passed on, it would have been a clear warning to you as a company that something had gone wrong because the wrong type of materials were in this order.
Correct. But pre-advised works in our industry. We're dealing with 4 million parcels a day. We're one of the largest e-commerce economies in the world, 7 billion in the year. Most people will be ordering their deliveries late at night and expecting that parcel to be delivered first thing in the morning. So we will receive electronic information of the parcel that's coming, and it's purely about the speed of service and where it's going and the contracted nature. That parcel will live under our roof for approximately 2 minutes. It will get knocked off, sorted off the back of one trailer, go through the automation and onto another. So we wouldn't do anything with that information within a parcel because it's the contracted information we're interested in. Where's it going and what speed of service?
One can understand why that is the main focus. And in fairness to you as a company, you do have guidance that we'll come on to that makes clear you don't carry knives. But again, I want to test and probe deliberately the systems to see whether there's scope for improvement.
Yeah.
Is there not the scope for a technological solution to this in terms of, for example, having these product names and having an AI system that checks for flag language, of which for you, knives would be one?
There is definitely a possibility for improvement if we had that information. I don't think it would be a silver bullet. Our recommendation is, if you want to stop this, the place to stop it is at the point of sale. And if a retailer can't control the point of sale and ensure it's injected into a network that's capable of delivering knives, then we should ban the sale of knives online. If we had this information, of course, we could filter for that. The AI is becoming more intelligent. It would have to be something that operated at scale. It would be a significant investment, but we could do that, yes. The challenge, I think, would be for the retailers to set up their systems pass that information through in a timely fashion.
The system would only be as good as the information that got passed on.
Correct, and I imagine the larger the retailer, the more efficient they will be. The challenge you have is when you go to smaller retailers and smaller manufacturers, etc., a lot of that would be manual. One man's kitchen knife could be another man's kitchen utensil. So data input could be a risk.
In terms of the system that was involved, were you ever aware of any sort of spot checking being done by higher up the supply chain of the type of delivery that you were doing? So if this should have been age verified, were you ever aware of Agio, for example, checking with customers that it had been age verified on delivery?
We were unaware of Agio being down that supply chain, so no. If you're asking me generally, if this is one of our clients, we would have an implant in that client's warehouse who would be on the floor once every 30 days, and a client of a larger size would have a board-to-board representative who would meet once a quarter. When we opt through a reseller, those activities aren't carried by us. This is very much a cheaper transactional rate, and the expectation is that operation is performed by the reseller. It's part of their value add in that supply chain.
So what is an implant on the client's warehouse?
So we would have a client account manager dedicated to that client who would spend part of their time in the client's premises, in their warehouse, understanding the product type, understanding the packaging and the presentation of that and the loading of vehicles, so we ensure we have a quality experience for that client and the customers of that client.
This is for the 90%?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a technical area, so if you can use plain English wherever you can to explain
Sure.
the process, it will help everyone. Returning to this particular parcel, you explain in paragraph 15 of your statement that having received the inquiry's request, you searched the barcode for this parcel delivery, but there's no record now linked to it held on your systems. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You set it out in your statement. I don't think we need to bring it up, that the reason for that, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason for that is simply because of the way that your data systems work, that you, after a time, delete data that you shouldn't hold for data protection reasons, and this has been caught by that deletion.
Absolutely.
And so you're not saying to this inquiry that it wasn't delivered by every, you accept, I think, that it would have been, but you don't have any data now about the delivery itself.
That's correct.
And we've heard that from data that is retained by Whistle, that their data suggests that the parcel was handed to Every on the 25th of October, and it was made, the delivery, at 9:51 on the 26th of October 2023 at the first attempt. And if that is what the Whistle data shows, I don't suppose that you would disagree with it.
Absolutely not.
Insofar as it matters, do you know, you say in your statement that the data retention for you is, I think, 13 months. Is that an industry standard? It seems a relatively short period of time.
So we separate transactional data from personal data. So the transactional data, the billing of it is kept for 7 years or longer for tax purposes. But anything associated with the final mile delivery, we are obliged to remove, and we settle on 13 months because it's a period where no claim or any issue that's maybe raised by the recipient will be closed by that time.
Thank you. Well, let's turn now to some detail about your contractual relationship with Whistle. You've had business with them for about 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's longer actually, but yeah, 10 years for the purpose of this.
And if we can have on the screen, please, every 503. And if we can just go on to the second page, please. We see at the bottom of the page that an email was going from a Matthew Swift. Sorry, could we just have it back as it was? So it's going from Matthew Swift on the 19th of September to Every, effectively, it's Hermes at that time.
Yep.
But then saying, and thank you if we can enlarge it, hi both, as the Offensive Weapons Act 2019 will come into force shortly, in response to this new legislation and to help our customers who want to send parcels that contain certain blade-em items, for example, knives, blades, axes, can you confirm if you have a different set of services to manage this, and are there additional charges involved? And then asking for you to give some detail about that, about how it would be run in terms of challenging age and so on. And if we go to the top of the page, it looks like there may have been a bit of a chaser. Can I get confirmation of your stance? I'm assuming it's a straight no, but need this confirming, please. And then if we go to the first page, there was what might be thought to be a pretty unequivocal response from your senior business development manager. Unfortunately, we're not able to handle this work.
It's correct. That gentleman is the implant. He is the gentleman that manages the relationship with Whistle on our behalf.
Thank you. You say, that can be taken from the screen, in paragraph 11 of your statement, that Every provides services to Whistle under a contract which started on the 1st of February 2023. Is that right?
Correct.
Which
And
paragraph is that?
paragraph 11, sir.
Thank you.
Could we have on screen, please, Every 504? This is that contract, and we can see that it's not signed, and you deal with that in your statement. But the reason for my bringing it up, could we just look at page 14, please? Page 14. At clause 4.9, if that could be enlarged, please, Sarah. The client warrants, the client here would be Whistle.
Correct.
The client warrants that the goods contained in any parcel shall not contain 4.9.1 any product with a blade which is capable of causing a serious injury to a person which involves the cutting of that person's skin. And then 4.92 deals with corrosive substances under the Offensive Weapons Act. So the significance, if any, of this contract is that if it was governing your relationship with Whistle, there was a formal warranty from Whistle to you that parcels would not contain bladed items.
Correct.
Or at least bladed items falling in within the description of 4.9.1. Is that right?
That's right.
You say in paragraph, that can be taken to the screen, thank you. You say in paragraph 11 that the contract wasn't signed, but was sent to Whistle's Director of Commercial Operations on the 7th of February 23. So for your note, that's Every 5, but I don't suggest we bring it up.
Thank you very much.
And was subject to commercial negotiation and agreement, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
You may be aware that Mr. Polglass of Whistle takes a different view of this. And he says, so for your note, we'll come to it with him obviously, but it's Whistle 9, paragraph 12. He says that the document had been provided to Whistle in February 2023 for review, but it was still under negotiation. Its specific terms had not been agreed by October 2023, and in fact, this document was not agreed afterwards. The unsigned 2023 contract contains a clause relating to bladed products, which was a new clause from Every and had not been in previous contracts, which had been provided to us. What do you say about that?
Well, that is not my understanding. The commercial terms were certainly applied at that time and were gratefully received. Our website is absolutely clear on prohibited items, and that is reflected also on Whistle's website. And of course, we have the note where we are rejecting bladed items. We do not carry bladed items. We've never carried bladed items. The whole industry knows we don't carry bladed items. Hence the approach from Whistle in 2019 asking,
Yes.
would we consider, to which we said no.
I don't want to elevate this difference of view between you and Mr. Polglass and between Every and Whistle too much, because it's plain from Whistle's evidence, which we'll come to after yours, that they were aware that Every didn't have an age verified and didn't allow knives. I think the difference is whether this was a contractual warranty to that effect.
Exactly.
But can I just ask you this? You've spoken about the 2.5 million parcels, but you and Whistle are two of the big players in this area in the UK. Would you agree?
Yes, yes.
And it might be thought somewhat surprising and perhaps somewhat concerning that there's a dispute between you as to the contractual position in relation to bladed items. On a safety and precautionary first basis, that's something which should be extremely plain on the face of agreements, shouldn't it?
It's not typical. Over 90% of our contracts are contracted, with written signed contracts. But this is also something that does happen, and it typically happens, where resellers are involved. I think they find they have more contractual fluidity around rates and volumes when they don't sign a contract. But the warranty is an issue between us and them. What is black and white is we do not carry weapons. We do not carry bladed weapons. And Whistle were well aware that we did not carry a bladed weapon.
Yes, but it's not a good situation that two of the big players cannot agree to what the actual contractual terms were around bladed items. So what's the answer to my question? That is something that you would expect to be clear in the contractual terms between you and Whistle, would you not agree?
Ideally, we would want all of our contracts to be contracted and signed, yes.
Your current standard client terms you deal with in paragraph 13 of your statement. Again, we don't need to have it up, I think, but that's slightly more complex language about capable of piercing the skin, I think has been simplified, and your current contractual terms just say the client warrants and undertakes that the goods contained in any parcel shall not contain any product with a blade. Is that right?
Correct, yeah.
And do you understand that to be the clear current contractual position with Whistle as opposed to what was in place in 23?
I'd have to check that with my my legal counsel, but I expect so.
Can you just, again, thumbnail sketch, please, but can you just, coming away from the legalities and the legal detail, how does it work in practice? What would the expectations be of how Whistle and any supplier higher up the supply chain, what would your expectations have been about how in practice they should ensure that prohibited items didn't get put in parcels for you to deliver? Because you don't have sight of what's inside the parcel and you don't necessarily even have a description.
No, and we can't open a parcel either to check either under the Postal Services Act. So All I can say is how we would manage a client. So we would work with that client and understand what they are carrying. We'd look at their product in their warehouses as well to see how it is processed and how it is packaged and how it is presented. We'd even look at how it is stacked within their vehicles, the time at which their vehicles arrive at our hubs so that we can unpack their product and process them through our hubs safely. There's certain types of products that we wouldn't put on our automation, for example. So we agree standard type of product, but anything beyond the norm, you'd have to look at and work it out and would receive a different price as well, depending on how it had to be handled throughout the operation. But for a normal thing, we would be working closely with the client, we'd understand what they were carrying, we'd be in their warehouse, seeing what they were carrying, how they were packaging it, and how they were presenting it to us at our hub. From that point on, we're then responsible for delivery.
Thank you. But in this type of delivery, where you're acting for a reseller, you are completely removed from that. You are just taking it from A to B.
Correct. So the reseller is operating in that area, and the reseller is doing that job.
And turning to, you've covered some of it, but turning to the checks on the parcels that may be conducted, you mentioned a moment ago that in terms of carrying out any spot checks, did I understand correctly, you simply would not be permitted in law to open up a parcel and do a check?
Unless it was suspicious, correct.
Even though age-verified products shouldn't be sent through every, what happens, and is there a process for a situation where a package in fact might be marked aged 18 plus or bladed items?
Yes, there is. We have a process where that parcel would be segregated, and the client account manager for whoever shipped that parcel would be contacted. On being contacted by this inquiry and being told that we had in fact delivered a blade, we revisited those processes, and we've now put an extra process in place that if a bladed item is found, we will put that client on stop until we understand how that item got through into our network, and to be assured that there were no others. If we couldn't reach satisfactory assurances, we terminate the client.
All right, so that's a post-inquiry request
Absolutely.
Improvement, and thank you for that. Sticking with what would have been in place at the time in 2023, the autumn of 2023, you say it would be segregated. Would it be caught in your delivery centres or warehouse, or would that be reliant on the driver spotting it? How would it be spotted and segregated?
It would likely be spotted in the depot. So we operate a hub and spoke kind of model. So parcels come into our hub. Our hub will process 1 million parcels a day. We've got 3 of these, and we burst up to 4 at Christmas periods. They then sort to depots, which are more regional. So we've got 30 regional depots. The processes in the depots are handled manually. At that point, if it was obvious from the packaging or the feel of an item that it was suspicious, it would get separated there. That would be the likely time it would be separated, and the next time would be when it hits the delivery unit where our couriers come in to collect parcels.
All right, now I don't want to go down this line too much because the context, I think, is likely to suggest that there wasn't any such marking on this label. But would your depot staff and would your driver couriers who are actually doing the delivery, are they all trained that anything for every that says age verified is a red flag because it shouldn't be with you?
They're briefed to a standard, but one of the learnings we've taken from this as well are to polish up those trainings and push out a formal training piece to all couriers with a reminder. So with the clients, we will send out a biannual reminder that we don't carry weapons. So not only are we into a client's supply chain, but we also write to them twice a year, effectively just challenging what they carry. With couriers, they will be trained when they're onboarded currently, but probably not again. So we've revisited our processes, and we're in the process of rolling out through our digital platform a reminder on knives that will be there and constantly there for a courier to see.
Thank you. Again, you've explained in the depot that that is where, is it for the first time that you've got some manual handling of the parcels?
Predominantly. So there's some, we will empty a parcel from the back of a vehicle onto an automated kind of like some automation. That is moved at pace. So someone does handle it getting it out of the back of a vehicle, but in reality, that is a really fast process. When it gets to the depot, they're manually handled and sorted to rounds.
Thank you. For the other two machetes, which were delivered age verified, the labelling varied, but there was on both of them clear wording of 18 plus. Again, just looking at what may be practical, is there any technological solution here that your systems might look out for on scanning? Because a lot of this is going to be scanning, it may be barcode based, but scanning the 18 plus would be a red flag going through what I'm afraid in my layperson's terms I'm thinking of as a conveyor belt.
We're starting to see some technology utilising AI that can capture things on images, but at that kind of speed, I do not think that would be a fail-safe. No. We use AI in the field to recognise faces, for example, in a photo. And I'd say it's pretty accurate, about 98%, but it does take time. Probably takes about 10 seconds to do. Now, in that point in a hub, the parcel will have passed the scanner. So for you to have that kind of technology in a hub, if it improved, it would take a little bit of time. You'd probably mean that a parcel would have to go around a hub twice. You would halve the capacity of every installation in the country if that was implemented. But at the moment, I don't think that technology exists to do it adequately. You could put it on a label, in the label. The label we read really quickly. If it was in the label specification, we would identify it and we would dump that product into a dump chute and handle it accordingly.
So when you say you could put it in the label we read quickly.
Correct, but it would be a change.
What could have a specification saying that the label must indicate something like not age verified, and you could check that it's got that.
Yeah, we could put that in, and obviously because we don't handle it, we would basically dump all that product and take it out of our network at that point. That would be a change, quite a simple change technologically in our network, but it would be a significant change, I suspect, for retail.
I'm going to come back to that perhaps in a slightly different context. So come to the reflections that could we just have on screen every 5 zeros too that you've given at the end of your statement. And we appreciate, Mr. Ashworth, that the inquiry, so every 5 zeros too, page 6, please. We appreciate that there was quite a quick turnaround time for your statement. Looking at the reflections, what you appear to be saying is neither myself or anyone else at Every knew or could have known that Every had delivered anything that could have been connected to the awful actions. And you go on to say, paragraph 18, from my knowledge of Every's business and its operations generally and specifically in respect of Whistle, I'm certain that neither Every nor any of its people could have known that it delivered the item for Agio and what the item was that was being delivered. And then in terms of recommendations for the future, you said, paragraph 19, the request asks whether I have any recommendations for improvements that could be made that would be practicable and make a difference to prevent delivery companies delivering knives to children. I do not feel I'm able to make any recommendation because Every is not part of the supply chain for bladed items. Now, just pausing there, we don't actually operate in that part of the market.
Correct.
But you go on to say, nevertheless, I would say that the law rightly puts the onus on retailers to make arrangements for the delivery of bladed items they sell online in a way that ensures that they are not sold to a person under the age of 18 and not handed to a person under 18 when delivered. The delivery that's the subject of my witness statement shows that there are practical difficulties with this approach. And I would suggest that these difficulties are such that it may be right for the law to prevent the sale of these items online or in any other way at distance. And does that remain your primary reflection?
Absolutely.
That you would at least raise the question of whether knives should be available for sale online at all?
Absolutely. And if we're looking for practical measures that we can implement, that would be quick to implement and easy to police.
Thank you. Whether that in fact would be the case is something we may wish to explore with policy witnesses later with the inquiry. Can I ask you about one of the things that has been raised by Mr. Polglass, our next witness?
Of course.
Short of a ban, he raises the possibility that something called the Product Harmonisation Code or the Product Harmonised Code could be expanded. Now, for those of us who are lay people in this world, is that effectively a standardised code that is used for cross-border deliveries because it tells customs and those delivering cross borders the type of good that's contained in the package?
Yes, it is.
And that is a requirement for parcels coming in and out of the country, again in simplistic terms, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Do you know what the position is in relation to knives on that? Do knives have a specific harmonisation code?
I'm pretty au fait with it. There are about 7 or 8 classifications for knives, from table knives, folding knives, mechanical knives, and they all have a classification code that is submitted with their digital remittance.
So it's quite granular, actually. It's not just one for knives, different types of knives. So a table knife, which may be lower concern, but a tactical knife or something like that would come under a different category.
Correct. There may be thousands of descriptors, from all sorts of goods, but there are about 7 or 8 for knives.
So Mr. Polglass's suggestion that the PHC might be thought about being expanded to domestic parcel deliveries, so that that's a code that's required to be shown, to a layperson might have a degree of attraction because it would have allowed, simply by scanning, for example, to know that the package contained knives, which would be a red flag. There's a problem because we shouldn't be taking knives at all.
Correct. If that data was accurate and existed, that would have worked, correct.
Now, it would depend upon the accuracy of the person whose responsibility it is to make the declaration of the nature of their goods. Yes?
Correct.
So if, as to which we might hear some evidence, Mr. Martinez had actually said this is cutlery, that may not have helped. But if it had been that this is a hunting knife or a machete or something of that kind, and that's scannable on a barcode system, that potentially would be useful for a company like Every as a safeguard.
It would, Nick, and it's something we could make a change to read that kind of information, and it wouldn't be a significant change for us to do that. But the supply chain changes would be huge.
So help us with that. What would that change entail, first of all, for Every, to your understanding? This is where I wanted to come into your knowledge of the industry.
Technically, we have a file that is embedded within the label. We'll call it pre-advice. So the label will say it on its own. So it's a standalone piece of pre-advice digital that can be digitally scanned, and it will be received in the pre-advice file, which is a file that is received from the retailer before we see the label, the parcel itself. So that's what we do. We would have to put an extra field in that label, and we could probably do that within a few months' worth of work. The challenge is that every single label in the UK would have to be changed. So every retailer that's got that label set up in their systems would have to do a system change. They'd also have to do a system change for the digital remittance. They'd also have to do a system change for the point of sale and for the digital entry and make all those things done. It's quite a complex chain. And when you're talking about, you know, historic retailers that have been around for many, many years, they don't have a simple IT ecosystem. It will be an ecosystem of tens or sometimes hundreds of IT systems that are tightly coupled, that would need changes to accommodate such a change. So you'd be looking at a long time. Well, last time I changed a label, just a label in this industry, and we had to do that just because of the sheer volume of parcels. We had to introduce one extra digit. It took 4 years to wash through retail, just for the label. Because all retailers have their own challenges, their own financial challenges, their own IT challenges, and it takes a long time to pass these things through. So, and then ultimately, you are still reliant on the data input being correct. And the last time I looked at HS codes, and it's a little bit fuzzy, but major manufacturers associate an HS code with an item. Minor manufacturers don't. And so it would then be the burden of the retailer to associate the HS code. Major retailers would do this with efficiency and compliance, but minor retailers, it would be down to the warehouse operative to apply the right code. And there are thousands of these codes, and one man's kitchen knife could be another man's kitchen utensil. And I would worry about, I think it would improve, but it would not be a silver bullet, in my opinion.
It may be that what one's looking at here is additional precautions. I'm not raising it with you to suggest that it would be fail-safe, but is your evidence that as an additional precaution, potentially that is viable? But if I've understood correctly, the lead-in time for you would be limited, but you would warn in terms of practicability that at the retail end, there might need to be a very long lead-in time because that would be a complex change to effect.
Correct, and cost to those retailers as well, yes.
Once the complexity and the cost change of making the change should be done, would it then, though, be relatively straightforward? It's just one further piece of information.
It would be picked up on the automation and put down a dump chute. The scanning would drive the action on that item, yes.
Thank you. I'm just going to look to my left to see if there are any questions that I haven't covered. I see shakes of heads. Mr. Ashworth, those are my questions. So do you have any questions for this witness?
I don't, thank you. Mr. Ashworth, you have responded to a request from this inquiry within a very short period of time, and I'm very grateful to you for that, along with your attendance and the evidence you've given today, which has been very helpful. Thank you very much. I'll rise and we'll sit again at 2:00.